Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another installment of Where's My Sock? I'm your host, Mr. E, and today I'm joined by a guest. My guest is a co-host for the podcast Buzzcast and has her own podcast, Dreamful Bedtime Stories. With over 13 million downloads of her podcast, she's also been included in Women in Home Magazine's article, 10 Best Podcasts to Fall Asleep To, approved by a sleep expert. She has a background in theater, art, writing, and was a children's librarian for over 3 years. And she's also a producer for Buzzsprout. Ladies and gentlemen, join me in helping welcome Jordan Blair. How you doing today, Jordan?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing good. Thank you for taking the time to interview with me today and helping my guests figure out a little bit more getting into this podcast game.
Absolutely. This is like one of my favorite things to talk about, so I've actually been looking forward to this all week.
Same here. I'm really glad to hear that. Thank you. So, if you don't mind, could you tell us a little bit about your journey and how you've gotten started into the podcast game?
Yeah. So, what happened is I was actually super into podcasts because I was working for like a bookkeeping firm, which is a very, very boring job to have. And so I discovered podcasts when I was doing that and just listening to them, I don't know, a lot. I was trying to find a good bedtime story podcast for my kids, and I didn't really like any of the ones I was looking for. And then I had a background in theater, and I was like a children's librarian for a while, and I kind of had one of those moments where I was like, I'm just going to do this myself. Like, how hard could it possibly be? And it was a little bit more difficult than I thought, but it worked out okay, and the podcast kind of took off, and then it wound up becoming like my job, and then I got connected with the people in Buzzsprout because I was just always talking to people online and like going to the conferences and helping out other podcasters because I had like sort of trudged through all of the YouTube videos and help articles and everything myself.
Yeah, that's always fun, isn't it?
Yeah. So I kind of trudged through all that. And so I was able to help a lot of podcasters that are in the communities online. And then that got noticed, and then they were just like, Buzzsprout was just like, do you just want to be a moderator of our group? And I was like, yeah, absolutely. And then eventually that led to me being hired by them when they had a position open up for the podcast producer there. So it's
nice.
kind of a weird journey into like podcasting as a profession, but it's one of those things like I think I worked very hard and was also in the right place at the right time a lot.
Mm-hmm. That's really nice when hard work and timing can meet each other like that, and it gets you to where you are.
Yes.
So you said you tell bedtime stories. Is it for your kids specifically, or are you reading to everybody?
Yeah. Well, I kind of originally made it just for them. I didn't think anyone was actually going to listen, so I was just very intentional about choosing things that they would like. And then after it took off, I was like, man, all these kids are listening to me. And then I would run listener surveys or have people email me, and I would have people write in and send fan mail and all this stuff. Adults sending me books and stuff like that in the mail. And I realized pretty quickly my audience is not kids. I thought I was reading to kids the whole time, and it was not kids. These were guys in college, and it was like women in their 70s, and I very quickly realized I was like, this whole time thought I was just reading to like 9-year-olds, and it was not that. And I realized it was all adults. And so I actually took my podcast like out of kids and family and put it into an adult category. And then it actually grew even more from there.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Could you actually speak on that a little bit?
Yeah.
You said you had it in kids and family at first as like what genre of podcasting you labeled it as, and then you switched over to adulting. How could you kind of speak to the importance of making sure that you're in the right genre?
Yeah, and it's actually a lot easier now to be in the correct categories than it used to be. They're adding categories, like a few categories every year, right? Or every few years. I don't want to say every year. It was like every few years. But it used to be you just had like these overarching themes. Like it was like tech, news, business, you know what I mean? And now there's like all these subcategories. And so instead of like just business, it's like marketing. And I don't know why I'm trying to like name all these categories. I can't remember them off the top of my head. But for example,
I do understand what you're saying, yes.
But for example, like kids and family, you have like kids and family as like the overarching umbrella. And then you have like children's stories. And then you have like parents. And then you have like kids' health or animals. I don't even know what it is. But it is really important to be in the correct categories because you're going to be fighting with a lot of other podcasts in that niche. And it's nice that it's niched down a little bit so you can be in a subcategory. But the really important thing is, depending on the podcast app that you're in, you need to be really, really intentional about what the first category is because you can choose up to 3. And there are some podcast apps that will let you be in 3 categories, but there's some where it will only be the first category. I want to say Apple Podcasts is this way, and there's a few other ones. And so you have to be really, really sure that when you choose your first category, that is like the main focus of your podcast. That's the niche you want to be in. And to be really careful to not, if you can, to not just be in that overarching umbrella. Because if you look at like society and culture is a huge category. And I mean, it could be anything. Society and culture could be literally anything. It could be like world history, or it could just be like dudes hanging out in their garage talking to each other, or it could be like an opinion piece on whatever, I don't know, politics, but like it just covers such a broad spectrum. And so if you're able to like narrow it down into a smaller niche and have that be your first one, and then maybe choose society and culture, the overarching, as like a secondary or a third category, that's probably the best thing to do. But yeah, it can definitely determine like who you're competing against in the charts and stuff like that. So it is important to think about.
Gotcha. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't realize that the categories have grown so much, like you were just saying.
They have, yeah.
It seems like you said, nowadays it's like you have every category you can think of. Like
it's so many, and yet we want more. I can every time I look at the list, I'm like, there's like 5 missing from this I wish would make it in. But yeah.
Just a quick question. This one's kind of random and left field. I try to ask all my guests the same question. If you could help me settle a debate that I've had with an old friend of mine.
Yes.
I asked this question a certain way on my first podcast. This time I'm trying to be a little cleaner. So if you had if you had to pick which was superior of the big cats between a leopard and a tiger, which would you choose?
Oh, I would choose a tiger all day.
Why a tiger?
Because they're big. And I think it's one of those things, it's like, which would I be more scared of if I were to come across them in the woods? Like a leopard would just be like chilling up in a tree, like maybe snacking on a monkey, I don't know, or a gazelle. Mm-hmm. But like, if I were to like run into a tiger in the forest, I'd probably crap my pants. Like a leopard, I'd be like, this is scary, but also really cool. But a tiger, I would be like, oh my God, I'm going to die.
So you're saying the leopard be a little bit more approachable. Like, oh my gosh, I kind of want to pet it. But the tiger, you're like, I know what that is. I got to go.
Yeah. Or there's no going. It's like, there's no outrunning it.
Got it. I like your answer a lot. I actually chose the tiger as well.
Good.
Could you tell me a little bit more? Like I said in the intro, you're a producer for Buzzsprout.
Yeah.
And you said that kind of, for lack of better words, fell into your lap. What is being a producer for a podcast like? Or what could it be? In my personal searches, I've found that like a producer can wear a lot of different hats. They can be someone that's editing. They can be someone that's actually just coming up with ideas, helping with the flow of things. Like, since you're in that role, could you kind of explain a little bit from your perspective of what a producer does? Yeah.
So you're completely right where a producer wears a lot of hats. And it depends on what kind of podcast you produce. So, for example, if you're producing like a documentary style true crime podcast, you're going to be following up. Yeah, you're going to be following up on like a lot of leads. You might be making sure that the editors are piecing the the interview pieces together in a way that tells a story. Like, you're going to be just kind of monitoring the overarching theme of the podcast, making sure that everything's on theme. You're going to make sure that the script writers are doing a good job. You're kind of in charge of like all that stuff. You might be doing a lot of like research and fact checking too, to be honest. But if you're a producer, an interview style podcast, you're probably just going to be maybe booking guests and doing some research on the guests and making sure that the host knows like the background of them. Make sure that either you are editing or you're making sure that the editors are doing a good job. You're kind of just watching everything along the way. And then you can also be the person promoting the stuff. So you might be posting to social media, or you might be booking your host to get on other podcasts. That's something that I've done too, is just a lot of emails to podcasts pitching a host to be on their show, or pitching people to come on. And then if you're, I'm trying to even like think, it's just a producer can do so many things, and it really depends on what kind of podcast you're in. You might even be a co-host of a podcast. I hear so many like big network podcasts where they will have the producer on with them, and they're not like really a co-host, but they're like along for the ride and kind of chiming
Makes
in,
sense.
or like bringing listener questions to the host, right? Like, so a producer role is very nebulous, and it kind of depends, but it's honestly a very, very, very big job. And I think that a lot of independent podcasters kind of fill that producer role for themselves, where they're the ones putting the story together. They're the ones speaking into the mic. They're the ones editing. They're the ones promoting. They're the ones pitching themselves to other people. So I think a lot of independent podcasters don't realize it, but they're playing a producer role for themselves already.
That was actually going to be my follow-up question to that was,
Yeah.
at what point when you're starting a podcast do you know / probably should reach out and get a producer? Or like you said, you're kind of already doing it yourself. So is it like just when you feel overwhelmed, or is there like a threshold? Is there a magic number?
I would say that 99.5% of podcasts do not need a producer in their lives. I would say, if anything, like if you were to bring someone on the team with you to outsource something, it would just be editing. Like, you just need an editor. And then you can fill the role to make sure that you like how things are going, you like how things sound. But yeah, I would say that majority of people don't need a producer for their podcast at all. Especially being independent. You're probably going to want to be the producer yourself, especially if the podcast is your idea and it's like your baby. Like, you want to be the producer on it.
Definitely. Because I've always wondered that. It was just like, like you just said, what you want to do, what you want to put out there. So to kind of bring in a stranger, for lack of better words, and have them see your vision the same way that you do can be challenging, I think.
Yeah, and you'd have to be so trusting. I'll see people on Reddit posting that they're looking for like a podcast co-host, and I'm just like, man, you put so much trust into a stranger, because I've seen so many like relationships, like even friendships, just crash and burn over like a podcast. And I have friends who have been kind of betrayed by a co-host and stuff like that. And it makes me kind of like, I don't know, but I think I just want to do everything alone.
Right.
Like, I'm so precious with my stuff.
And speaking to doing things on your own, now I know you are a producer. How has AI kind of changed the podcast game, in your opinion?
Oh my gosh. The AI is so divisive. It's kind of like, it's, people either love it or hate it. And I think that AI is such a great tool when used correctly. I don't think it's something that should replace people, obviously, but I use it heavily. I love AI. Do you like how I preface that too? I'm just like, it shouldn't do this, but I'm all on board.
Gotcha.
I think, as far as like, okay, so if I'm thinking about my production workflow, I have a podcast that I am a researcher on. It's just an independent podcast, but I'm a podcast that I'm a researcher on. And Google comes out, I want to say like last year, with Notebook LM. Holy cow.
Okay.
And it's meant for like academics. It's meant for students. But what I found is it is a researcher's like best friend. If you go, and it's free. So it's just notebooklm.google.com. And you can actually drop YouTube videos, Wikipedia articles, websites, news articles into a source thing. And from that, you can generate a briefing doc, you can generate a script, you can generate a timeline of events. Wow. You can, yeah. And it was so funny because I actually met this one podcaster. He has a JFK conspiracy podcast, and he was asking me about AI tools. And I was like, I'm about to blow your mind. Like, this is going to like change your life. And I showed him Notebook LM, and I just pulled a bunch of like YouTube videos. I pulled the CIA, because you know how they have like the Freedom of Information Act documents that you can pull. I pulled the CIA declassified documents that Trump declassified on JFK, like slapped it into Notebook LM as sources, and then just said like, give me a timeline of events and briefing, and it'll read the PDF pages from the CIA, and it'll generate like a full picture briefing document of the chain of events. And it's just like,
sounds amazing.
Yeah. It used to be that I would spend hours, days researching a podcast episode. And now it's like I need 2 hours and like a couple YouTube videos and some stuff and just a quick few Google searches and just like slap all those in together. And I can have a cohesive outline all ready to go. And what's really cool about it is that if you use like something like ChatGPT or like Google Gemini, they pull from the web. They'll pull from Reddit. So what happens is like sometimes when you're trying to get facts or sources, they will sometimes kind of muddle the actual source information with what people are saying online. So if you've got a bunch of like Redditors, you know, just talking smack or whatever to each other, like you're going to get that in with your other information. And so... Yeah. So ChatGPT and stuff like that, yeah, you can use it for your podcast research and it's amazing, but you have to be really, really careful. Whereas Notebook LM, the Google one, it only pulls from the sources you give. So if you want to be like super biased on something, if you want it to be just like laser focused on a topic and not go off into these rabbit holes, you can do that with Notebook LM. Sorry, I get so excited about that one. I could just talk about it for like an hour.
No, you're fine. I'm loving this. Actually.
Okay, good.
Very informative. I appreciate it.
And then, I mean, the other thing that's great about AI is how much it has helped with podcast editing. Holy cow. The amount of like voice enhanced tools. I mean, you've got like Aphonic and Adobe Podcasts and all this different stuff coming out that uses kind of like AI or algorithms to like clean up audio where it can detect things that are not like a person's voice. And and there's so many things like that are just really cool. It's also great for generating podcast cover art, especially if you have episodic art it's hard to find stock images for. You can also use AI to create music for your podcast that's like royalty free, you know, and it's not copywritten by somebody. And it's just, I think that AI has changed the game so much. However, I do not like the podcasts where the hosts are AI. I think that there are situations, and I've had people write into our podcast, they're like, hey, like I actually lost my voice because of cancer or whatever, and I use AI voices, but I disclose in the episode, this is AI and here's why. And so that makes sense to me, but the people that are just kind of like spamming with all these like podcasts that are fake, it's kind of annoying, and it kind of muddies the waters for independent creators that are actually like, you know,
really
crafting,
putting the work in.
Yeah, putting the work in, crafting something that's worthwhile. So
I get that.
Yeah.
So would you say then ultimately AI is a great tool to be used during podcasting, but like you said, if you're doing the voiceover thing, it kind of waters down the experience a little bit?
Yeah, especially if you're using all this stuff in conjunction with one another, like maybe pick and choose. Like
Right.
Like,
either use it for researching or use it to maybe add a voice to your story or something. But
yeah, like maybe don't use AI to like write your script and then feed that AI generated script into like an AI voiceover thing, and then feed that into like an AI music tool, and then feed that into creating the AI episode artwork, and then, you know, use AI to create your episode titles and description and stuff like that. Like maybe that's a little too much AI.
Well, I think the argument could be made that, like, that sounds like a lot of work. Granted, there is a lot of work being done by the AI, but having to, like you said, going through that whole process, I'm like, that would be quick. But yeah, that would definitely take some time, I guess, and still some critical thinking, I think, to some degree.
Well, I think a lot of these AI podcasts are really getting flagged by the podcast hosts and the podcast apps and stuff like that, just because they are kind of like, you'll get garbage ones that are just kind of flooding the podcast ecosystem. And so they are taking them down. And so, yeah, if you do use AI for just absolutely everything and like no thoughts put into it and you're just cranking out all this like AI stuff, like you do risk it getting taken down by these podcast companies.
Okay. Now, this one is just a personal question that I personally have, and I wonder, keeping your content in mind for your personal podcast, you tell bedtime stories, and you're also a producer for Buzzsprout. Have you ever done like a public speaking and noticed people getting tired? And like, I just wonder, like, do you switch up your flow when you're talking into different settings, or is it like the same voice, if that makes any sense?
Yeah.
Again, I'm sure the content you're talking about is very interesting. I'm not saying you're putting people to sleep, but you kind of put people to sleep. So.
Yeah. So as I said, I have like a theater background. And so it's really funny because I hate promoting my bedtime story podcast. Like, even though that's the one that's like my biggest, I don't know, accomplishment, I guess. But like, I hate promoting it because if you listen to me just talking now, laughing, having fun, I'm a little bit sarcastic, I'm a little bit, whatever, loud. That isn't very enticing for saying, hey, come listen to my bedtime story podcast. People will probably listen to me and be like, I don't think I will. That doesn't sound good to me. So I hate promoting it. But as I said, like I do use a completely different voice. It's a lot more calm. I talk very slowly. I kind of have a little bit of like a baby transatlantic accent put on when I'm speaking. So it really doesn't sound like me when I'm doing that. And so I do use different voices, and I do not put people to sleep, thank goodness, in public speaking events.
And again, like I said, I don't think you would speak about anything boring, but it's just like, people are creatures of habit. So it's if I hear this voice, I know that it's time for bed. So how do I? It's like I really want to listen, but man, a nap sounds great.
It's like a very like Pavlovian response.
Yeah. Moving forward in the podcast world, because you kind of have a behind the scenes look at things being a producer at Buzzsprout, how do you think where do you think it's going moving forward?
Moving forward, I think that there's a lot of talk right now about kind of a definition change for what a podcast is. There's a lot of discussion around that because what has happened is now that YouTube and Spotify have been really pushing video to be in podcasts, and you have all these advertisers and you have these companies that really will benefit from everyone going to video, pushing that narrative. I think that there's a lot of talk right now about like the word podcast is going to go away and then just everything's a podcast. And I think that there's a lot of that, but I don't see podcasting going away. I think in the future, yes, you can have video to enhance the podcasting experience, especially if it's one of those things where people can turn off their screen and still listen. I recently heard a definition of a podcast, because you always have those podcasting purists that are like, if it doesn't have an RSS feed, it's not a podcast. And I mean, I don't know. But I did hear a definition in a recent study by Oxford Road where they said that if you can, how's it go? If it still works with your eyes closed, it's a podcast. And I like that, because what's happening is YouTube is just tagging every playlist as a podcast. And they're like, oh, podcast consumption is up like 1 billion%. And everyone's like, you
is
actually
like,
is it though? Because you actually like marked a bunch of Mr. Beast videos as podcasts, and like those aren't podcasts. That's just a YouTube video.
You got to watch those videos. Like you can't.
Yeah, you have to watch them.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's the thing is like people are kind of like raising the flags of like, I don't think that's true. And so I think a lot of podcasters are feeling pressured to create video. And I don't think that they need to, because I don't think that that's the direction that podcasting is headed. I do think that video can help with podcast discoverability. But honestly, if you have someone that finds your podcast as a video, they're probably going to watch it as a video. They're probably not going to listen. And I think that podcasting is, as we kind of get these industry standards in place for like what constitute as a play and a listen and a download, because everyone counts things differently, and advertisers like they're just like, I don't know how to like reconcile how much money I've spent on this ad because you're saying it was played this many times and this person's saying it was downloaded and like, what does this mean? And so advertisers are kind of like hanging off a little bit with like investing in podcasting, but really podcasts are so good at like developing brand loyalty and brand recognition and stuff like that. And so I think once we kind of figure out as an industry what is going to be like the standard across the board and advertisers get in a little bit more and stuff like that, I think that podcasting is just going to continue to boom. We have passed the threshold in 2024 of more than 50% of the US population listens to podcasts. And so we're now like entering the threshold of mainstream. And I think in the next like 5 years, it's going to be even higher and even higher and even higher. So
Nice.
that's where I see it going. I think that podcasting is I think it's here to stay. I don't think it's going to go anywhere.
I don't think it's going anywhere either, but I do agree with you about the video thing. I try to keep mine audio only.
Yep,
just
me
because,
too.
much like you were saying, I do everything myself. So I don't know how to edit videos, and I don't want to learn. That seems like so much more time consumption that I don't have.
It's crazy. Okay. So I had to do, it was so dumb. I'm not good at video. I wish I didn't get put on it, but like I had to do a video for Buzzsprout's YouTube channel, and it was, honest to goodness, like a 3-minute video.
Mm-hmm.
I can finish like an hour-long podcast episode in, I want to say, like if I'm really, really like intricate about it, like let's say like 6 to 8 hours, like said and done.
Mm-hmm.
This stupid 3-minute video, it took me like 4 days and I had to scrap it because it wasn't good.
You spent 4 days and didn't even publish it?
I didn't I had to start over because I mean, it's just like video is such a pain in the butt. Audio, if you start stumbling over a sentence that you're saying and or you pause and you're like, actually, I didn't mean to say that. And then you start talking again, you can just cut it and put it together and nobody will know. Video, if my hair is in a different position or like the light coming through my window is a little bit different from one scene to the next and then it changes back, people are going to be like, what's that about? What?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
yeah,
it's way too much. And you have to do everything in like one take. And it's not my jam. I don't like it. It takes forever. No, thank you.
Agreed. Definitely agree there. Yeah, because it's just, sometimes I'm listening to podcasts sometimes and I can tell that they focus more on the video than they do the actual audio aspect of things because, like, let's say they're reviewing a clip that went viral that week or something, and it's like you can tell they're watching it, but it's like, man, I have no idea what you're looking at right now. Yeah. So I got to wait for you to release it on your website, on YouTube, whatever, so I can watch it with you, and then I can understand the joke a little bit better.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think some people have yet to tap into being more descriptive as far as when they're talking on a microphone, you know. Mm-hmm. Obviously, I'm not that old, but I remember the days of, I remember hearing about and reading about in school, like the days before like TV when people used to just like gather around and listen to the radio and old stories like that. So it was, you had to hear the sound effects, you had to describe that you were getting in the car or something like that, getting out, walking into someone's apartment. And I don't really see that too often, I feel like, in podcasting.
No, yeah, I get that a lot. And honestly, a lot of the podcasts, like listening apps and podcasting, I don't want to get too technical here, but like podcasting 2.0, they're the ones that make like the namespace tags that everyone adopts. So for example,
said the names. What is that?
Namespace. So it's basically the code that goes into your RSS feed.
Okay.
And what it is they will kind of like innovate through creating these tags. And it's kind of like, so one of them, for example, is like the chapters tag. And so what it is when everyone adopts it, the podcast hosts, so podcasters can go in and they can make chapter markers in their podcast. And along with that, you can upload images. And so that's really helpful too. So you can say, hey, like in this chapter marker, you'll see like the picture of whatever it is I'm talking about. And in addition, you can go to the website, or you can go to our Instagram and like check that out too.
Okay.
So there's innovations like that do help with it. But I think a lot of I want to say a lot of YouTubers forget about the audio first audience. I totally agree with you. There's so many times that I am listening to something and they will sit there and watch like a video on their phones together for like 20 seconds and it's just silent. And I'm like, I can't do this. And I just turn it off because I don't have time to watch a video. I don't have time to listen to this. Like, yeah. But there are some like innovations that are taking place where it's making it a little bit easier for podcasters because we're so limited on what our visual, I can't think of the word right now, like our visual assists.
Yeah. No, I get that. It's
Okay.
like we don't have props. All we have is our voice and the mic.
Exactly. Yeah.
No, I get that. What were some of the hardships that I feel like, or that you feel like you went through in this journey that you've been on? So, like, if you could give my listeners any tip about, like, starting off, what do you wish you knew then that you know now?
Your friends and family will never listen to your podcast.
Oh, hey.
You can tell them it's the best thing ever. It can be the best thing ever. You can be let me tell you, you can be a top 1% podcaster in the world, and they still will go, that's nice, and never listen. They will not listen to your podcast. Nobody cares. They are not your target audience.
That was great. That was a good laugh I needed. Thank you.
It's true.
But you aren't wrong. I've noticed that even in my own journeys.
Yeah.
They like you said, it's almost like you have to force it on them. It's like, hey, you want to check out my new episode? Yeah, I'll look at it. No, like, let's listen to it right now.
Yeah.
So that I know that you're listening to it. Like, and then we play it, and then they're just like talking about other things. It's like, no, dude, pay attention, because I'm about to do something really cool here. Like,
I'm not even joking. He's going to kill me for saying this. I caught my husband. We were doing the Easter egg hunt with all the cousins and all the aunts and uncles. And he's standing in the backyard with all the Easter eggs. And he's got my brother-in-law cornered and he's making him listen to his new podcast. And I can't believe you did that. He's like, he was right there. He hadn't listened to it. I want to make sure he knew that it was good. And that's,
oh my gosh,
that's
great.
kind of like the length you have to go to
little
get
bit.
friends and family to listen to it. They're not going to listen. They don't care. And so I think it's really important to just be okay with the fact that your friends and family are not going to support you in your podcast journey. But if they do, great. If your mom becomes like a Patreon subscriber, like mine was forever, she actually still is, I think. If your mom becomes a Patreon subscriber and that's the only way she supports you and she never listens to an episode, that's great. So be it.
That's actually, I'm going to remix what you said there a little bit.
Yeah.
You found the hack as an adult on how to still get an allowance. I'm proud of you. I am proud of you. That's really nice.
So true. Yeah, I'm still getting an allowance.
It's just a monthly thing instead of a weekly thing now.
Yeah.
That's good. Good job. So to try to bring a little bit of positivity back into that, where do you feel like you can get a good support system, I guess, for your podcast? I know you spoke about Reddit a lot. I use it all the time as well.
Yeah.
Actually, that's where I was able to reach out to you.
Yeah.
How do you get support? How do you get the encouragement that you might be looking for in starting your podcast journey?
I think the important thing to remember with being a podcaster is podcasting can be so lonely. It's not like YouTube where you get people commenting on all your stuff. Like, yeah, Spotify added comments and stuff, but it's just not the same thing where you post to social media and you get hearts and likes and all that stuff. Podcasting can feel like you are talking into the void. I remember when I first started, and I mean, or rather when my podcast first started really taking off, and I was getting I would get 10,000 downloads in a week, and nobody would write me. Nobody would say anything on social media. I would never get an email. And I was just like, are these people real? And it starts not feeling real. And what I found was so much comfort in getting involved in the podcasting community and to really make sure that my mindset is that the rising tides lifts all boats. So the podcasters in your community are not competition. The other bedtime story podcasts, I made friends with them. I made nice with them. We DM'd each other. We support each other. I would promote their podcast on my podcast. I would do feed drops if I wanted to take a break. I would be like, hey, can I take one of your episodes and put it in my feed and promote it to my listeners? And they'd be like, absolutely, you can. And they would send it to me, and then I would do that. And it was just it helps so much to be in community with other podcasters. Because like I said, your friends and family, they're not going to understand it the way that other podcasters, especially other podcasters in your niche, will.
Mm-hmm.
and they'll be there to like to celebrate your wins. You know, if you post like I've reached 500 downloads this month, your podcaster friends are going to go, "Oh my gosh, that's amazing." Hearts, likes, all the celebrations, and then your friends are probably not going to like do that. You know what I mean?
They're going to look at you and say, only 500? You know, I'll listen to such and such, and they get like 1 million views in an hour. And it's like, so you're not really doing anything. It's like, no, I'm doing stuff. Like, yeah.
And that's the thing. Is like other podcasters get it. You have to work hard for those 20 downloads that you're going to get. Like you have to work hard. You have to grind. It is so much effort. And podcasters get that. So just make sure that you are in community with other podcasters, and especially other podcasters that are in your niche, and make sure that you have them on your podcast. Make sure that they have you on their podcast, and just make friends with them, because podcasters are like the nicest people and they will support you. So I think that that's the best place to get support, is from other podcasters who can like your journey resonates with them. They get it, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I feel like we need to make a social media for podcasters if it doesn't already exist. I don't know of any personally.
I think Good Pods tried that. Podchaser comes to mind. I've got like a handful where they tried doing like the social media thing. I don't think it ever like really took off.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Well, it may be one day. Maybe it's still too soon in the industry. Like you said, there's a lot of questions when it comes to podcasting and everything. So I'm sure one day someone's going to go, oh no, there's a market for this.
Yes. It's in there. Yeah. It's there.
Very nice. Well, Jordan, Miss Blair, I will not keep you too much longer. I only have one final question that I like to ask all my guests.
Okay.
And if I can kind of borrow your mind for a second, your imagination. In 13 years from now, this is a random number. I just picked it. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Where do you see yourself, and how would you like your life to look? Like, it's just a normal day. You don't have any events coming up. There's no recording or editing you have to do. Like, it's a day for Jordan. What does that look like for you 13 years from now?
Trying to do the math here. 13 years.
You don't have to say your age.
Both my kids. Oh no, yeah. My age is fine. Both. I'm turning 35 this week actually, so it's very exciting.
Happy early birthday.
Thank you. I'm thinking both of my kids will be graduated from high school, and so I will probably be on vacation somewhere. I imagine podcasting from Bali. No kids. Exotic. Maybe I'll be in Japan, like living out my dreams. But I picture myself out on vacation.
Nice.
13 years, no kids. I'm not worried about them. They're off doing their own thing. And yeah, that's where I see myself if I'm not working, if I'm not doing anything.
I'm going to say it. So like you said, we don't have the luxury of props of visuals in podcasting.
Yes.
So me looking at you as you tell that, like, your kids are a handful, huh? Because the way that you kind of
I've got 2 girls who are exact replicas of me. And they're intense. And I'm intense. And it's a lot. Like, it's a lot. And so we've done the whole like vacation thing, like with the kids, and I've got to be honest, I much prefer vacations without them. So we're just kind of like, oh my gosh. I mean, like once you're a parent, you're just like, do you remember leaving the house to go to the grocery store? Like, do you remember that? Yeah, that was wild. We just left. We would just leave. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, I can't wait to just like leave the house.
Get your time back.
Yeah.
I get that entirely. Well, thank you very much again, Jordan. I appreciate it, and I hope everybody enjoyed this conversation. Would you like to share your socials where people could find you if they have any questions?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. So on Twitter and Reddit, I'm at Jordan Pods, and you can find me on the Buzzsprout subreddit and also in the Buzzsprout Podcasters community group on Facebook. I'm all over in there, so you can find me in those areas.
Cool. Well, like I said, thank you very much, and that's another episode and installment for you guys. I hope you enjoyed, and make sure you tune in next time for another great installment of Where's My Sock?